Since the industrial age began 150 years ago, Earth's climate has been changing. It has been getting warmer to the point that climate change now constitutes a threat to many living species. But is there anything we can do to save the situation? For millions of years, the Earth's temperature varied along the same pattern as the CO2 content in the atmosphere. Since 1850, the concentration of atmospheric CO2 has soared to levels not reached since the time of the dinosaurs. There is a time lag between the rise in CO2 concentration and that of global temperature. We suffer today from the effects of carbon dioxide emissions that occurred 50 years ago. Our planet has lived through a period of exponential demographic and economic growth. Carbon dioxide emissions are a consequence of that growth, which is simply not sustainable. The IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has been holding meetings since 1988. This assembly of eminent scientists and economists was set up by the UN to better understand the impact our activities have on global warming. The IPCC's conclusions confirm the existing consensus within the scientific community. Our CO2 emissions are a threat to Earth's climate. Global warming is already responsible for a portion of the natural disasters we are enduring, such as fires, floods, storms, and droughts. We have to think about the future in terms other than fossil energy. It is hard to admit, but the industrial countries have only until 2050 to achieve a four-fold reduction of their CO2 emissions. Yes, but how? How do we diminish the consumption of fossil fuels and uranium and turn our attention completely to the use of renewable energies? This is the question we must urgently contemplate. We believe that the ecological tax reform, also known as ecotax, is one answer to this challenge. Since the beginning of the petrol era, there has only been one period of significant decrease in consumption. In 1974, OPEC decided to triple the price of crude oil, leading to a historical decrease in pollution. Worth noting here is that the most efficient way to diminish the consumption of petrol is by increasing its price. And this is what the eco-tax proposes. The revenue generated by the ecological tax reform is used almost entirely to lower and stabilize non-wage labor costs. Thus, one speaks of a tax shift. This means a shift of taxation from non-wage labor costs onto CO2. A part of the collected taxes goes to financing renewable energies. In effect, the tax rate does not increase, it is simply moved. By taxing progressively and significantly each ton of CO2 released into the atmosphere, the eco-tax automatically reduces the consumption of fossil fuel-based products. Greenhouse gases present a cost to the collectivity that is not reflected in the actual price of fossil fuels. The ecological tax reform satisfies the polluter-payer principle by re-establishing realistic prices, good for employment, good for climate, and neutral for wallets. Ecological tax reform has been applied in Germany since 1999. By increasing the price of fossil fuels, the eco-tax will help us collectively change our consumption habits. To start reducing our CO2 emissions, the Kyoto Protocol has put into place a market for carbon credits. The big companies are attributed a maximum CO2 emission quota. Those who succeed in surpassing their reduction goals can then sell precious emission credits to the others. But the ecological tax reform goes much further. Only this reform will effectively allow us to reduce petrol consumption by 3/4. We all want to act in favor of the environment, but as individuals we are powerless when facing the formidable challenges of climate change. The eco-tax is a tool that can help us act collectively. In Germany, despite an economic crisis, the tax on polluting energies has permitted the creation of 60,000 jobs within the renewable energies and energy conservation sector. It is truly the opening of a new market, a local commodity chain for providing energy. The ecological tax reform is difficult to put into practice, but it is the only way we can seriously reduce our CO2 emissions. In the meantime, every day living species disappear forever, but we still have a choice. We can change.